You know that exact moment. You spend weeks or maybe even months getting ready for something. You send the email or you finally ask for the thing you want. You are just riding that wave of hope.
Oh, yeah. You
Yeah,
feel like it is finally going to happen.
right. And then it arrives. The generic, we decided to pass email, or just the face of the person slightly shaking their head no.
It is honestly the worst feeling.
It really is.
Yeah.
And in a fraction of a second, your chest gets tight, your thoughts seem to speed up, but somehow they also slow down at the exact same time.
Yeah, like a full physical crash. It just, it hits your whole body.
Exactly. And you right away start replaying the last 10 minutes or the last 10 weeks, just trying to figure out where it all went wrong. You search for that one exact moment you ruined it.
What always gets me about that feeling is how common it is. Like, no matter what the setting is, we think a no at work or a typed message should just be a logic thing, right? Like, just business. But the body reacts like it is an actual danger.
And, the culture around us is just terrible at handling this. The standard advice is always some version of, hey, just get a thick skin, brush it off, don't let it get to you.
Which is just useless advice, honestly.
Totally useless. Because the truth is, the people who actually reach their goals aren't the ones who somehow ignore the pain. They don't have some magic thick skin. They're just the ones who process the no faster.
Yeah, they just find a way to clear the fog.
So I have been thinking a lot about the psychology behind this, about why a no hurts so deeply, and how we can actually build habits to bounce back. Because to figure out how to recover, we first have to look at what the body is actually doing in that moment of a crash.
We really do have to start with the body. Because before we can talk about a growth mindset or, fixing our habits, we need to see what is happening in the brain. The moment you get that no, a very specific part of your brain lights up.
And it is not just the sad part of the brain.
No, not at all. It is the exact same pathway that feels physical pain. Yeah, it is the same part that lights up if you touch a hot stove or break an arm.
That is just wild. It completely changes how we should look at this. To your brain, reading a generic email that says, no thanks, is pretty much the same as rolling your ankle.
Exactly. Your brain is not just being dramatic. It is working exactly how it was built to work. I mean, for most of human history, being left out of the group was a real threat.
Because you could not survive alone.
Right. If you were cast out from the tribe back in the day, it meant you would not eat. You would not survive. So the brain learned to treat any kind of no as a massive alarm bell.
Even a low-stakes work email.
Even an email. The brain treats it like an emergency.
The hunt stove thing really makes sense here. I mean, the brain pulls your hand back from the fire to save your life. But with a declined pitch deck, that same fire alarm is ringing while you are just sitting quietly at your desk.
And that alarm dumps a huge wave of stress chemicals into your body, like a massive spike. Now, in a short burst, that stress alarm is helpful. If you actually need to run from a bear, it sends energy to your muscles.
But you are not running from a bear. You are just staring at a screen.
Exactly. So that stress chemical just sits there. And when it sits there, it fogs up your clear thinking. It actually pulls calming minerals out of your body to keep the panic going.
I read once that it drains things like magnesium,
Yeah.
which just wrecks your nerves.
Yeah, it literally drains you.
And that long stress state just completely messes with your perception. Your brain puts these heavy blinders on. It only looks for more threats, which means you lose the chance to see any new paths or, fresh ideas.
You just get stuck.
Yeah, it explains why the hours right after getting a no feel so heavy. It is not a weak mindset. Your brain chemistry has actually been hijacked.
And that hijacked state leads directly to a deep bias. A no almost never stays small in our minds. The brain takes this one piece of bad news and makes it about everything.
Oh, the spiral, the classic spiral.
Right. You do not just think, oh, they passed on this one idea. The story shifts super fast into, am I totally useless? Do I even belong here? One small event turns into this huge story about your worth.
Which ties right into imposter feeling.
100%.
But I want to ask about the usual advice here. If we are feeling actual pain in the brain and we are flooded with stress chemicals, the idea that we should just push through it seems like a joke. You cannot just fake happy your way out of chemical flood.
No, you really cannot.
So how do we even start to recover when the mind is stuck like that?
That is the big question. You cannot force the stress to stop just by trying really hard. Pushing the pain down does not work. It just traps it in the body. The goal is not to ignore the feeling. The goal is to shift which part of the brain is driving the car.
Okay, wait, how do we do that?
Well, there is this whole concept around how fast we bounce back. Think of people in jobs that get a lot of no's, like sales or creative stuff. The thing that points to real success is not raw talent. It is just the speed at which they try the next meaningful thing.
Like how fast they get back up.
Yeah, their bounce back speed. And to get faster at that, you have to force a shift in your head. When you sit there and ask yourself, how do I feel about this? You keep the brain trapped in that emotional alarm state.
Which is full of the stress fog we just talked about.
Right. But if you change the words you use, you change the brain state. If you ask, what can I learn from this? What facts did I just gain? You literally force the blood flow away from the emotional alarm. It moves up to the logic center, the part that handles clear facts.
By just changing the question.
Just changing the question, you are manually switching the brain hardware.
That makes total sense. It reminds me of Sarah. Have you ever been in a spot like she was?
Mm-hmm.
She is this person who was working on a huge client for her job for like 8 months.
8 months is a long time to build hope.
Exactly. The talks were great, the work was perfect, and she just knew they were going to say yes. And then, out of nowhere, the client went with someone else.
Oh, man. That is crushing, especially because the mind already started living in the future where she won.
Right. And she went into this deep 2-week fog. She still went to work, but she just quietly shrunk her world. She stopped trying for big wins. She only took safe, easy tasks. She told herself she was just getting back to basics, but really she was just hiding from the pain.
She was protecting herself from another crash.
Exactly. But what turned it around was not someone just giving her sympathy. A friend sat her down and did not ask how she was feeling. Instead, he asked, how did the client make their choice?
Oh, that is such a smart way to ask it. It steps right around the ego. It is not, what did you do wrong, which brings back the alarm. It is, how did they choose, which makes you look for facts.
Right, and it made her look at the client's internal system. She saw that they just needed a different kind of slow approval process that she did not offer. It was not about her worth. It was not about her being bad at her job. It was just a bad fit for their system.
Which completely shifts the perception.
Yeah. That one shift from emotional crash to just gathering facts broke her fog. In a week, she was back to aiming high.
Because she moved from a final judgment to just collecting data. When you view a no as proof that you are not good enough, you freeze. But when you view it as a puzzle, it brings out your curiosity. And curiosity lives in the logic part of the brain.
You know what stands out to me here? It totally breaks this myth that we have to wait until we feel brave before we try again. We think we need to feel good to take action. But action is what makes us feel good. Taking one small, clear step brings back the feeling that we are in control.
And that leads right into what we should do in the very first hours after a no. Because knowing you need logic is nice, but when your chest is tight, you need a physical fix first.
Yeah, because the body is still screaming.
Right, so the very first thing is just finding where it sits in the body.
Finding the feeling.
Yeah, when the no hits, instead of letting your mind spin into that story of why you are a failure, you just look at your body. You ask, is my chest tight? Are my shoulders heavy? Is my jaw locked? You just give the physical feeling a simple, plain name.
It sounds almost too simple, but the psychology behind it is strong. Just noticing and naming the physical feeling slows down the brain's alarm bell. You step outside the panic to just look at it like a fact.
It acts like a circuit breaker. It pulls you out of the story and drops you back in the room.
You give the logical brain a very easy job to do right away. And once you ground the body, there's this idea of giving the emotion a set time limit, like a clear window, say exactly 90 minutes.
Yeah, boundary.
During that time, you do not push the feeling away, but you drop the big story. Instead of saying my career is over, you just say the simple facts. They said no to the pitch.
I know some people really fight the idea of a time limit, though.
I mean, I sort of struggle with it too. It sounds a little like that fake happy culture, you know? Like putting a clock on sadness. Is it not just telling someone to get over it?
It is a really good thing to question. But it is not about pushing it down. It is about building a fence. Fake happy culture says you should not feel bad at all, which is just bad psychology. Building a fence says, I will feel the sting of this right now, but I will not let it ruin my whole week. You feel the pain, but you keep your power.
That makes a lot of sense. You build a fence around the event. But even with that fence, it still feels like a huge hit to the ego. And this is where the idea of core values comes in, which might be my favorite part of all this.
Oh, remembering our core values is huge. The way it works in the mind is brilliant. If you take just 2 minutes right after a no to write down 2 or 3 things that really matter to you, it changes everything. Not your goals, but your deep values. Like doing honest work or being a good friend.
Or just always learning. And the reason this works is that it stretches your view of yourself. When you get a no on one specific thing, your brain gets tunnel vision. Your whole life shrinks down to the size of that one failure.
You forget everything else you are.
Exactly. By writing down your core values, you remind your brain that you are built on things much bigger and much older than this one moment.
It changes the size of the threat. A no is a massive threat to a tiny identity that only cares about winning, but it is just a tiny speed bump to an identity built on real values. And doing this simple writing trick totally changes how you do the very next thing you try, because you drop the heavy backpack of failure.
Which makes me think of James. He is this guy who creates art for a living. His story perfectly shows what happens when you do not lean on your values.
Yeah.
He missed out on a huge award and lost a big client, all in the same week.
Ouch, that is a heavy week.
Right. And he did not yell or broke things. He just went super quiet. For almost a whole year, he stopped trying for the big stuff. He only took on super safe work that he knew he could do perfectly.
Just staying in the comfort zone.
Yeah, he told everyone he was just building his portfolio. But really, he was shrinking his world to make sure he never felt the pain of a no again.
That is the trap. It is fear dressed up as being smart. The real danger of a no that you don't process is that it feels like safety.
But it is actually a cage. What finally got him out of it was not some new trick or a sudden burst of grit. He was talking with a guy he really looked up to in the industry, and that guy just started being super open about his own recent failures.
Wow, that changes the room.
It totally did. Hearing that shifted James's view entirely. He saw that getting a no was not proof that he was an imposter, it was just the cost of doing hard things. That honest talk gave James the push to separate his worth from winning. He sent out his best work a month later and landed a huge win.
Because he finally stepped out of the alarm state. So if we look at the timeline here, you get the no. You find the feeling in your body to calm the physical spike. You write down your values to protect your sense of self. And you put a fence around the story.
Right.
So what do the habits look like for the rest of that day and the morning after?
This is where we have to respect our basic needs. The habits you choose over the next day or two will either lock in your clarity or drag you back into the fog. And the absolute first rule is sleep. Sleep is not a luxury. It is a tool.
Deep sleep is the main time the brain sorts out emotional pain. If you stay up until 2 in the morning just staring at the ceiling, thinking about the failure, you are literally stealing the time your brain needs to file the event away.
And then the next morning, the instinct is always to try and force productivity by drinking 3 cups of coffee to push through the tired feeling.
Which is the worst thing you can do.
It really is.
Drinking lots of caffeine when your stress alarm is ringing is like pressing the gas pedal on a car with no oil. You are not making real power. You are just breaking the engine. Your stress is already high, and caffeine just turns the dial up even more, keeping you trapped in panic mode.
Instead of fake energy, you need real calm. We talked about how the stress wave pulls minerals out of your body. You have to actively put them back to calm the nerves. Eating good, real food, like dark leafy greens or seeds or dark chocolate, is not just soft wellness advice. It is actual support for a body trying to heal from a chemical flood.
And once the body's a bit more settled, there is a key step called the 48-hour rule.
Oh, yeah. The 48-hour rule is huge. It just means that within 2 days of getting the no, you must take one small step forward. It absolutely does not have to be a big swing. It could just be sending a quick email to ask a question or taking 20 minutes to read about a new way to try again.
The size of the step does not matter at all, just the direction. That one action proves to your brain that moving forward is still possible. It stops the pause from turning into a permanent wall, like it did for James during his year of hiding.
But there is one more massive trap we have to watch out for during those first couple of days. And it is all about how we share the news with other people. Because my first thought when I fail is to either hide in a dark room and talk to no one, or text 10 friends to complain about how unfair the world is.
We really have to draw a clear line between finding real support and just broadcasting our failure.
Broadcasting the failure. It is like putting a cast on a healthy arm. It feels safe, but it just makes you weak.
That is a perfect way to describe it. Blasting your failure out to everyone, like posting a huge, sad story online to get people to feel bad for you, is a trap. When you do that, you tie your whole identity to the failure.
Because you get a warm feeling from all the sympathy.
Yes. You get a reward for failing, which makes you want to stop trying. It takes away the drive to do the hard work of getting back up.
You get the comfort from the pity, not from the progress.
Exactly.
Hey.
But hiding away totally alone is just as bad because isolation lets the bad story play on a loop in your head with no one to stop it. What really helps is one quiet, honest talk. Talk to one person you trust. And the goal is not to just complain for hours. The goal is connection, which calms the brain's fear center. And then you can make a small plan for what is next.
That line between venting and connecting is so sharp. And honestly, it makes you look in the mirror a bit. It makes you ask, am I moving past this or am I building a shrine to it? Because it's so easy to hide and call it growth. We say, I'm not hiding, I'm just taking another class first, or I just need 6 more months to plan before I try again.
Right. The endless planning phase.
But if we are really honest, we have to ask if you're actually preparing or just making our world smaller so we never have to feel that tight chest and read that generic email ever again.
That is the quiet danger of a no that we do not face. It builds the walls of your future without you even knowing it. But when you look at the big picture, the pattern is so clear. The paths that matter most always have the highest amount of no's. A rejection does not mean you are broken or on the wrong road. It usually just means you are trying things that actually matter.
The people who actually change things are not the ones who have a magic shield against the word no. They just have simple habits to turn that no into useful facts. They find the feeling in their body to calm the physical panic. They lean on their core values to keep their self-worth safe. They shift from asking, why me, to what can I learn? And they use the 48-hour rule to take one small step to prove the world has not ended.
It is discipline, really. Resilience is not something you were just born with. It is a quiet practice you can learn.
And to wrap up how much our minds twist this whole thing, there's this amazing truth about how we guess our own pain. People almost always guess way too high when trying to figure out how long a rejection will hurt.
Oh, the bias is huge.
Yeah, we guess way too high. We think the pain will last for weeks and ruin our whole month.
But in reality, if you walk through it with clarity, the lifespan of that pain is actually super short.
You think it'll break you, but you are guessing way too high. So think back to that feeling we talked about at the very start of this deep dive. The face-shaking no, the generic email, the tight chest. We all hate it. But if getting a no is just a body's natural response, a short alarm bell paired with a bad guess about the future, and you now have a real plan to walk through it.
Yeah, it changes the rules.
What bold thing have you been putting off just because you did not know how to recover? What could you try tomorrow if you knew exactly how to catch yourself when you fall?
These thoughts, these questions, they don't have to stop here. Geeks Mindset has many more podcasts and videos just like this one. Subscribe to the channel and explore other episodes. They all flow the same thoughtful way. If this podcast felt genuinely useful to you, share it with even one person in your life. That one share can bring a real change in someone's life, and it helps Geeks Mindset reach more people who truly need this. If this brought you real value, look for the join button right next to the Geeks Mindset logo below this video, click it, and become a member of the Mindset Support Circle. Your support helps honest mindset awareness reach thousands who are silently struggling. Geeks Mindset moves forward because of you. Thank you so much from the heart for being here.